Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Monday night edition of the Real Chat Daddy Show. I am your host, Chat Daddy. Glad to be back with you guys on a beautiful Monday, but it's very hot and humid here in the Chicagoland area. We're expecting temperatures in the upper 90s this entire week. So this is a reminder that if you know anyone who is elderly, please make sure that they have air conditioning or some way to stay cool and hydrated. Same would go with your pets. And don't forget, please do not leave your children in the car as well, too. I have another great show for your viewing and listening pleasure this evening. Back to school season is in full swing. And both of our guests tonight are very critical in talking about things that matter the most. Our first guest tonight will be an author, playwright, and activist, Mr. Michael Fosberg. And he has written a wonderful book, Nobody Wants to Talk About It, Race, Identity, and the Difficulties in Foregoing Meaningful Conversations. And this book is really a great read. I read it over the weekend. Michael found out at the age of 34 that he was actually biracial. His father was Black, and so we'll talk about race and identity in American society today. And you guys know that's a really hot topic right now, so that ought to be well received later on in the show tonight. And then we also have another wonderful guest. She is 22 years old, and she is Dr. Tess Emery, and she's an amazing young lady. Her bio is just incredible. Let me give you guys a little bit about her background. She received her, let me pull it up here just a second. I was reading so much about it, I went past her notes. She received her bachelor's degree at the age of 14 and her Ph.D. at the age of 19. And with everyone homeschooling right now, she has created a wonderful program that can help high schoolers as well as college students excel in receiving their degrees. Since everyone is homeschooling now, so that should be a great conversation as well, too. Our guest co-host tonight is a dear friend of mine. He's been here with us many times before. Mental health expert, all around great guy. Help me welcome back to the show, Mr. Philip Montgomery.
Hey, how are you?
Good.
How are you tonight?
I'm good, Philip. How you doing tonight? It's a scorcher out there, Philip.
Good. It is hot. I had to go to the cleaners. I walked up in the door. I asked the ladies how were they doing it. It felt like I had just walked into an oven, but they were working hard.
I can only imagine. I'm actually glad for this wonderful weather. Summer is almost over. Well, I'm going to tell you why. Summer is almost over. You give this another 60 days, brother, and we'll be talking about kicking the heat back on.
This is true. When we're staring at about 10 below zero, we'll all be thinking back to where's that 97-degree day that we complained about. So you're right. I'm going to appreciate this warm weather because I'll be looking back on these memories in the winter.
See, and that's what I'm talking about. You know, people are so quick to complain about the summer and that they don't like the summer. And I'm like, I love the summer. Oh, did I lose you, Philip?
No, I'm still here.
Did I lose you? Oh, well, you're blank.
I'm blank. Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, we can't see you. Oh. You are midnight black, my friend.
Well, let me dial out and dial back in again and see if that will do.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
Beautiful. That's okay. I'll give everybody the latest COVID-19 update numbers. We're waiting on Philip to come back and join us again. Today, boy, it's been a busy weekend and a lot going on. Earlier today, Illinois health officials reported 1,612 newly confirmed cases of coronavirus or COVID-19. 8 additional fatalities took place also in the last 24 hours. This brings the state total now to 221,790 cases, and our complete fatality total is now 7,888. As you guys all know, over the weekend, several NFL teams were disrupted during their practices because quite a few of their members came up with a false positive for COVID-19, and most of the leagues have traced back to one place called New Jersey reference laboratories. The Bears ended up having 9 positive tests from players and coaches, but they all ended up being false positives. And according to the reports around the league, the Jets, the Vikings, the Steelers, the Bills, Browns, Packers, Eagles, Lions, Patriots, and Giants all ended up with positive, negative, positive test results or positive, negative test results. And so this was all confirmed on Sunday afternoon. Let me bring Philip back in. Isn't that something, Philip? That's my biggest fear about it.
Well,
that's my biggest fear.
That's what they've been saying. You know, we've been hearing a lot about these tests, these rapid tests, and how the results. The governor of Ohio, remember, had a test done when he was supposed to meet the president, and it proved out that he was not positive, but the original results said he was positive. I can't imagine being on one of these football teams and having to take this test 2 or 3 times a week, and then I don't know whether I'm getting an accurate result or not each time.
Well, I do have a close friend who is being called out on various assignments, and if the assignment is for Thursday or Friday, today is the day that this friend would have to go take the COVID test, and this person has got to take the COVID test every week before they're able to accept the assignment on Thursday or Friday.
That's a lot of emotional, in many ways, torture to know that you have to go through something like that once a week to keep going to work. And it's like you're playing this, I don't want to say Russian roulette, but you're playing this game where you're just waiting to see which one of these times is it going to say that I'm positive and I'm really positive, especially for those of us who are still out there on the front line, making up the front line, doing everything. No matter what you do, you are coming in contact with people, and you can make the risk as small as possible, but you still just feel like you just don't know.
No, you do not know. And the thing is that until they find better ways of doing this testing, first of all, the nasal swab. I've had some people tell me that the nasal swab, when they put it in, it was almost like they would touch your brain. I've had several people tell me that.
Yeah, right. I've heard it was disturbing.
Then I have been told by a couple of people that they now just wipe around your nostril area. And then I know a couple of people that, and they're offering now where you can have the oral mouth swab done. I guess the blood at one point. But here's the deal. Who knows, what is right and what's not right? And then why wasn't these other forms offered in the beginning when everybody was coming down positive or, wanting to be tested?
Well, I think the challenge was to get a culture that was an accurate representation of this virus. So I think that initially they needed to use that particular kit. I think as the data has been gathered, and I think as technology has progressed, now they're trying some of the other things that they can typically use when they're analyzing things like this. But what's happening is the frequency with which people have to have these tests and just the volume and what can happen when you're doing such a large test. There's got to be room for error. It's just that this is not the kind of error that a person takes easily. I mean, this is the sort of error that you're sitting at home and it's life-changing. So These are very challenging times. And yeah, you're right. Those express tests sound good, but I just don't know how I would feel if I was one of the gentlemen on one of those football teams you just mentioned.
Well, to bring that back up, the NFL had the lab examine 77 of the positive tests from 11 of the teams. All came back negative upon retesting. And one of our viewers just put up that the rapid test is $150 to $250 per test. When need to be tested every day. So that's a lot of money that's being spent. Do you know the number of people the number of people that are still unemployed, the number of people that could benefit from that type of money? And then, you've got to look at if a person tests positive, you've got to quarantine all these other people and continue to test them as well, too. Because if I'm not mistaken, Philip, a couple of the universities were saying that they were going to test students who came back in, class into the lecture hall twice a week. That's a lot of money as well, too.
That's a whole lot of money. And if you're listening to what's happening with universities now, they're talking about how this testing is going to hit the bottom line for them as well. But when you're looking at the cost for the person taking the test, I'm also concerned about the amount of money that people are making who are manufacturing the tests, given that the accuracy is not 100% foolproof. There's a lot of money to be made, unfortunately, from something like this. And when I hear you say that, it leads me to believe there's a lot of people out there who'd be trying to make that money, and they're just quickly bringing some of these tests to the marketplace. But I hope that's not the case.
Yes, and Debbie Green said the test for $150 to $250, you'll get the results in less than 6 hours with the rapid testing, which, I get that, but still, that's a lot of money, and that's a lot of anxiety and pressure to be put on somebody,
This is not, there's nothing like this that we've seen in our lifetimes. This is unprecedented, and it's one of those things where when you look at the people, the families, because it's not just the one person, it's the people they've been in contact with. It's everybody's family. It's the outcome. These are just some horrible times. They really are.
Well, with that being said, the entire world is now focused on Kenosha, Wisconsin. Yesterday afternoon, for those of you that are am I fading out? Look, the Wi-Fi is really tripping. Zoom went out today. I've been fading it. Can you hear me okay still?
I can hear you.
Okay, good. Well, the Wi-Fi keeps going in and out. So yesterday, a gentleman was shot 7 times by a Kenosha officer. Video shared on Facebook showed a man walking around a car as police followed. They shot him as he was reaching into the driver's side of the car. A local reporter in Kenosha, Wisconsin said the man was trying to break up a fight between 2 women. The gentleman in question is Jacob Blake. He was shot 7 times point blank in the back, while 2 of his 3 children were actually in the back seat of the car. There was no taser used. There was no type of restraint used. He was shot in the back 7 times by the police officer. And now there's been civil unrest in Kenosha, Wisconsin, all night long. There actually was a curfew put in place last night before I went to bed. And, still there was a lot of burning, and the city hall had to be boarded up and all those things. Philip, here we are, another situation where a black man has been shot by a police officer. An unarmed black man has been shot by a police officer.
Again, we're, just the situation. Let's just set that to the side first. The optics of it, it just seems like every time we look up, there's another black man who's being shot. And when you look at the number of times that the person, fired his weapon and hit this man, there's some issues there that even if he's fired or whatever they do, they need to have him get some professional help, because that seemed from not in that profession, so I don't know, but it seemed like a lot. And I can't wait to hear the recap of what happened and whether or not they feel this person did the right thing or not.
All I know is it's an unfortunate situation. It was unfortunate to even watch it play out on social media. The news has now, said when they're reporting on it that it's very graphic to watch. They've even edited some of it. But just to know, first of all, Philip, I feel 2 sides about this. First of all, if I'm involved with anything with the police in this day and age, I'm probably not going to move unless they tell me to move.
Me too.
There's no way in the world would I walk away. There's no way in the world would I open a car door, reach in it. From what I understand, it looked like the car had tinted windows. I don't know. I would not have done that. But now for the police officer to have shot him in the back 7 times is really horrific in many ways. For the simple reason is, you mean to tell me one bullet wouldn't have been able to take that brother out, or a taser wouldn't have been able to take him out, or, and I don't mean death, but just, you know, incapacitate him. I'm not understanding why. And that was close range he was shot at.
I just think that right now, everybody's, the police are under such pressure because they're being second guessed every time they do something. I think that, you know, that is a professional job. And unless we are in that profession, it's kind of hard to say whether or not they're done the right thing or not. But when you're looking at so many instances of it always being a Black man, there's some behavioral science work that needs to be done there to kind of explore what we can do in the training process of police officers, so that they're not, because it seems that sometimes they're acting just over the fear of the person's color. There needs to be something out there that allows these gentlemen to explore their feelings or things that they're struggling with before they're actually given a gun and sent into the community to work with people.
Well, police departments are so desperate now just to have people to be a part of the department and to serve and protect, at least that's what the motto is, that, you know, really most of the people are people who really want that great income. Most police officers, once they've been there a while and start making money, they consider it rock stars. They somewhat let the power go to their heads. You know, and it's an unfortunate situation. And then, you know, it always boils down to a black and white situation as well, too.
Yes. And then you've got to remember, we look at power based on what we've got going on in our politics, too, right now. And you give some of these gentlemen a gun and you tag them as representatives of law and order, and they feel empowered to do what they deem to be the right thing, and many times it's not. It's really scary. And when you're looking at the police, yes, I agree with you. Given what we know from our history, if a policeman came over to me and approached me, I would stop. But
absolutely.
But then, should we have to? Or is that something only Black people and Black men have to do? Do white men stop the same way that we have learned how to just stop? I don't know. Like I heard one person who was on the scene say, if it had been a white person, they probably just would have pulled him to the car and talked to him by the car. So it's all in. Also, why is one level of necessary to deal with Black men, and it doesn't seem to be the same level of restraint necessary to deal with any other group of people?
Well, now here's what I was told by a law enforcement officer in confidence, but you know, we kind of had this conversation, is that oftentimes when the police get to something and it's people of color, Black people, that the situation is probably magnified to 1,000 with just spectators, naysayers, folks wanting they put their 2 cents in. The situation is already escalated to volatile by the time they get there. And they're not necessarily, you know, sure as they're trying to pick apart what is going on in the situation. What do you feel about that?
I hear you with that. I mean, I definitely can see that. I've seen that in the classroom.
I've witnessed it. I've been a part of it. I have.
So I think you're right. I think a big part of it is when they get there, they know it's going to be on level 10, and they have to figure out how to get it down to the right level. So they're starting from the top, trying to work their way down instead of it being level 4, working up to a 10. So I can see that. I can see when the policemen get there, you know, it's just one more night. It's just one more time. It's just one more this. But I think I'm not going to say as much for the gentlemen who are just starting into the profession as police officers, but for the ones that do the training of the officers on the street. I think you know the community you work in. And I think culturally, if you if there needs to be some culturally specific training that takes place, then that is something that we need to look at. But I think after you've been working in these neighborhoods where you know that the passions can rise to this level, where they can go from 0 to 60 in 2 seconds, you have to develop some tools to help you manage the situation, because you know that it's possible that it's not where it should be. So you need some, I guess, logic needs to come in, and you need to say, well, what can I do? Is there anything I can do to bring this down some so that we can have a conversation?
Right. Okay. All right. Well, with that being said, tonight is the first night of the 2020 Republican Convention. Tonight is the dog and pony show for the Republican Party, where they bring out all of their best. Don't laugh at what I just said. I saw you was getting ready to laugh. It's a dog, and the Democratic Convention was a dog and pony show too. This is now a dog and pony show for the Republican Convention. I didn't mean that in a negative way. So tonight, our president, number 45, Donald Trump, will speak not only tonight, but all 4 nights of the Republican Convention.
Aren't we lucky?
Huh?
Aren't we lucky?
I know. The Republican convention airs at 9 p.m. Central Standard Time, 10 p.m. Eastern Time. It is supposed to be a virtual convention, but there are actual delegates that did show up today. They are wearing masks and they are practicing social distance. To my understanding, the only African-American Republican, is it senator or congressman? Senator, correct?
Yes.
He will be speaking, but other than that, the only, yes, we've got to see what he has to say. And so what do you think about the whole Republican convention thing?
Well, I agree with you when you say they're both a dog and pony show. I've always enjoyed them. I mean, up until this one, and my struggle with this one is I don't think he's addressed the elephant in the room of his 4-year period correctly, and that's how he's managed this horrible virus. I've heard from people that are Republicans. I've heard from some that believe that what he's doing is the right and the only way that it should have been done. I've heard from some Republicans that I know say that they can't believe that he doesn't see that, one death is one death too many.
Absolutely.
I've heard from some African-American people that I know that live in the rural South, and they think he is the best thing since sliced bread. And I've discovered that they like the fact that he celebrates the fact that not everybody has an education. I've heard many people say that they are more aligned with the Republican Party now because it seems to be more for the common man, and the Dems are getting more into becoming an elitist society. So, I mean, it is a dog and pony show. They're both. It's just, whose dogs are going to be the most entertaining. Tonight ought to be interesting because it's going to start with the Sun and Nikki Haley, which is, maybe they'll ask her about those drapes. And then it's going to end with him, giving you part 1 of what's so great about him. And I'm sure his daughter will bring it in tomorrow, and it'll just be on and on and on. But until they address the poverty in the urban areas, the what they're trying to do to the post office, slowing down the work that we could do by unfortunately asking people to stay locked up a little bit longer in their homes while we possibly try to get a better hand around this virus. There's so many things that I think he needs to respond to as a leader, not necessarily while running for the office, that he has not addressed. The pardoning of his friends, how they can run through jail like they're on the playground, no matter what it is that they're doing. You've got a man that basically wished a woman well, who could have been part of orchestrating getting girls underage to another friend of his who mysteriously died in jail. There's so many things that, if he's carrying Louis Vuitton, he's got about 5 steamer trunks just full of stuff, and people just don't seem to look at it. They just look away.
Well, what I find the most interesting is that, again, we're in the midst of a global pandemic right now, something that none of us could have imagined. The best playwright in the world could have never written 2020 the way this is all played out. You have millions that are still unemployed. You have people who could possibly lose their homes, their belongings, everything. He promised a couple of weeks ago that unemployment would be, supplemented. We've not heard another word about that. I mean, there are a lot of things that are at stake right now. And again, a major election coming up in just a few months away. And just a lot of decisiveness still. And then there are a lot of people up in arms with the First Lady changing the Rose Garden. That was a hot topic this weekend as well, too, about her changing that Rose Garden. But, I'm not worried about some flowers as much as I'm worried about the state of this country.
Well, I don't want to beat around the bush with that woman's Rose Garden. She was just probably trying to get away from her husband.
Boom, team. You don't want to beat around the bush about the woman's Rose Garden?
God, no.
I love it.
But what I really...
I didn't promise you a Rose garden. That's what she said. I didn't promise you a Rose garden. So there you go.
But I think that it's just the chaos of it. I mean, when you talk about a three-ring circus, it's like it is Barnum and Bailey. You are wondering what's gonna come out from behind that curtain next. And each time the curtain opens, it's more interesting than the time before.
Oh, absolutely.
You can't believe what you are seeing because you just think, oh no, they would never let something like this happen. But not only are they letting it happen, it continues to happen. I mean, the man said on TV, I don't know how many times, that he wasn't going to loan the post, he wasn't going to give the post office the money so they couldn't process the ballots. And then he appoints a friend who's a donor to be the postmaster general. And we have to ask him questions about whether or not he's doing it for the right reasons or because he's a friend of the president. That's an obvious answer. You're asking the man to lie.
How much was it to ship a postcard? He couldn't tell you. He couldn't tell you. You don't know. He's like, are you kidding me? I'm a rich man. Why a postcard? A postcard.
Now, if you'd ask him how much it took to courier something or to hire a plane and send it someplace, he probably could have broke that down for you real fast.
Yes,
but
absolutely.
And they're not even thinking. I mean, unfortunately, there's no thought when this whole plot was developed about all these people living in these rural areas, like many of our relatives who get their medicine through the mail. You've got people, grandma and them, some of them wait once a month and this big box comes through the post office. And it's the diabetes, high blood pressure medicine, it's everything. And you slowed the mail down and you're telling people that some of their stuff could be a month late. Oh, no thought went into that idea at all.
Philip, it's so funny you say that. A couple of years ago, my doctor offered me the option of, having my medicine mailed to me. And I'm standing there looking at the doctor, and I wanted to say, well, you think I'm at that age now where, I get to go get my medicine? And then I said, mail it to me. I said, well, will it be, regular medicine or is this, some, and he was like, oh no, a lot of people do mail service with that. And see, I had never thought about that. You and I, we're used to having to make that trip to the pharmacy and waiting on it. And now you can mail me everything.
Well, it's a lot of people where their meds, especially people who will be in the generation where they're benefiting from Medicare, where they get their medicine 3 months at a time. And imagine if I ran out of my nitroglycerin pill in June. And you told me I wasn't going to get another one until July. That would be enough where I would need one. So,
absolutely.
It's like some part of this it is the reality show, and he is good at it. I mean, he is excellent at hosting a show, and that's what he's doing.
Right. Okay. All right. Well, with that being said, Philip, we've covered all the hot topics for the evening. We had a lot more to talk about. I wanted to talk about Tim Norman, the son of Miss Robbie's from Sweetie Pies. You'll come back, so we'll talk about that.
Because Miss Robbie and I have the same last name, so I had to make sure we're not related when any of this happened. I was like, wait a minute.
When I worked in morning television, he actually came to the studio for an interview when the show Sweetie Pies first came out. And, you know, he was a nice guy, spoke to him, whatever. But after a few minutes, I started to figure out something wasn't necessarily right with him. And he just was interesting in many different ways. And then from my understanding, he had actually served a prison term before.
Well, what I found fascinating was when I looked at the fact that he has a public defender. So that means that his mother is not even trying to assist him in this situation at all.
Well, from what I understand, his debt was just absolutely out the window, just ridiculous, crazy, just insurmountable debt that he had gotten over the years and overextending himself, the restaurants. You know, of course, you get one or two great restaurants, and then you want to open up a franchise. And so, to my understanding, that's what the biggest problem was.
Wow. But your cousin, I mean, that's just, oh my goodness, that's horrible.
Well, to my understanding, Miss Robbie was next. He had also taken an insurance policy out on her. We'll have to talk about all of that later. So let's move on because our next guest is in the waiting room. Our next guest this evening is a gentleman, I'm going to tell you, small world. Back in 2011, this was a hot topic on the morning show I was a part of. What do you do when you find out that you're another race after so many years? You think you are one way, and then you come to find out you're totally different. And here I kept saying, I know this gentleman's name. I was like, he looks familiar to me. Well, guess what? In 2011, he was a center of our hot topics on the morning show. We were talking about this, and it's just an honor to have him here tonight because I kept telling these people, like, I know him, and I do. And look, thinking maybe he's my cousin, thinking maybe he might be related at this point. Who knows? Well, let me introduce our next guest to you guys this evening. He's a really wonderful gentleman. He is an author, activist, and actor. He has a wonderful play that I had also heard about that and read quite a few things. His new book, or his book that is out, is Nobody Wants to Talk About It: Race, Identity, and the Difficult in Forging Meaningful Conversations. And I could not agree more. I'll put the website up before the evening is over. Philip, I sent you all the information on him. We definitely need to talk to him and find out, because now more than ever, as you said before, race and identity are the number one things that most people are talking about. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the show, author, actor, and activist, Mr. Michael Fosberg. Hello, sir. How are you this evening?
Hey, good.
How you doing tonight?
I'm great. How are you guys doing?
Good.
Excellent.
Glad to have you here with us.
I'm sorry?
Glad to have you here with us this evening.
It's perfect to be with you. Yeah, it's funny you were saying that in 2011. I think that's when I released my first book. It was my memoir, Incognito: An American Odyssey of Race and Self-Discovery. I released it in 2011. That must have been when it was. Yeah,
it was. I was looking back on Facebook today, and I put your name in my Facebook, and all of a sudden it popped up, and I was a part of a morning show here in Chicago, and the hot topic conversation of the day was about your book and finding out at the age of, was it 34,
32.
that you actually were and that you were biracial, and that was our hot topic of the morning. I'll never forget that. Yeah, so it's pretty good. So Michael, do me a favor, introduce yourself formally to the audience. Tell them a little bit about yourself, and how did you come to this discovery, and what made you even want to find out a little bit more about your past, your background and your past.
Yeah, well, so it was precipitated by the divorce of between my biological mother and my stepfather. I grew up with my stepfather and biological mother. My parents announced they were getting a divorce when I was in my early 30s, and I was shocked. It just hit me so hard, and I realized when I found out that I was like, wait a minute, I don't actually know who my biological father is. I mean, my mother had never told me anything about him. We left my biological father when I was I don't know, about 4 or 5 years old, and she remarried, and I grew up in a working class white family in the northern suburbs in Waukegan. And
Wow.
I grew up with my biological mother, who was of Armenian descent, and my adoptive stepfather, who was Swedish. And then again, when I was in my early 30s and they said they were getting a divorce, I was like, wait a minute, what about the first guy? Whatever happened to my biological father? And so I asked my mom a bunch of questions, and she gave me two bits of information. She told me his name. She told me his name was John Sidney Woods. And she told me that the last time she had spoken with him, which was some 30 years ago, that she thought that maybe he lived in the Detroit area. So armed with that information, this was the age before we used the internet for everything.
Right.
I went to the library. I was living in Southern California, in Santa Monica, California. I went to the library, and I don't know if you remember, the libraries used to have a reference section, and in the reference section, they would have phone books. They'd have white pages from major cities around the country. Yeah, who are white pages, right?
Right.
Yeah. Look, you got some people now sitting there looking at this like, what the hell is
What
he
the hell
talking
are
about?
you
White
talking about?
Pages.
Yeah.
Right. So they had a Detroit phone book, and I looked up the Detroit phone book. I looked up his name, and there were about 4 or 5 listings for that name, and I wrote them all down, and I raced home, and I was living in this little tiny apartment, just, I mean, like maybe about the size of this room. That the whole apartment was just tiny. And I paced back and forth. I was scared out of my mind. Well, what do I say? What if none of these guys are my dad? I didn't, I was coming up with all kinds of things. And finally I got the courage, and I picked up the phone and I dialed the first name on the list, and it turned out to be my father. First phone, right? And so I'm on the phone with him, and we're trying to like wrap our heads around, you're my dad, I'm your son. What do we say? It's been 30 years. I mean, what do we say? How do we talk now? What happened? Where have you been? How have you been? All those things. And then out of the blue, he says, son, there's a couple of things you should know. I'm sure your mother's never told you. And I thought, okay, aside from not telling me about you, I mean, what else could there be, right? And he says, well, first of all, I want you to know that no matter what you were told or what you thought happened, I've always loved you, and I've thought about you a lot. And that was my dad. My dad telling me for the first time that he loved me. I was elated. And then he said, there's one other thing I'm sure your mother's never told you. And I said, what? And he said, I'm African American. And I didn't know what to say. I was, choking. I was like, I didn't know what to say. I was like, I grew up thinking I was a white guy. Now suddenly I'm half black. And then he started going on about about our family. That I have a great grandfather who was a member of the 54th Regiment in the Colored Infantry Unit in the Civil War. I have his document up here on the wall. I had a great grandfather who was an all-star pitcher in the Negro Leagues. He pitched for the St. Louis Stars. His contract's right over here. My grandfather was a genius in the science and engineering department at Norfolk State University, is named after him. And I was like, whoa, can we get back to the black part? Because I'm still trying to wrap my head around that, right? And we swore that we'd stay in touch. And I got off the phone, and my life was forever changed after that.
Wow.
So, first of all, great story, beautiful story. So glad that you were able to connect with your dad and just get that affirmation that you needed. But then what was your initial response after you got off the phone? And again, you were raised white all of this time. Now you a brother.
Right. Well, I have to tell you, my whole life, I always felt a deep connection to African-American people, African-American culture, but I could never explain why. I mean, I always was surrounded by things, cultural things that were just, like they just resonated with me. But there wasn't anything in my immediate family to suggest that I was anything but what they were. And my mom was Armenian. My stepdad was, I know he wasn't my biological father, but, I just couldn't make the connection. And it never occurred to me that my biological father could be black. And I think that's a part of having white privilege, is not being able to think outside the box. That could be a possibility.
Yes.
Yeah.
We were talking here on the show, I think about a week or so ago. We did this whole series on the show in July. Oh, no, it was in July, and it was the last week of July. And my two favorite Monday night ladies who hang out with us, Dr. Carol Collins Elijah and Alicia L. Ross, both academics. And we were talking about, just being the color struck lighter than a paper bag. I was telling them that I remember being raised with people who, you know, people would say, oh, they're white, they're not black, they're not black. And I would say, no, they're black. They, you know, they're so-and-so's cousins. And so, you know, I guess over a course of time, you know, people, I guess, stop wanting to identify more with their race, or maybe wanting to identify more with their race. What do you think?
Well, you know, passing is a very sensitive thing in the Black community. I mean, those lighter skinned Black African-American people who could pass for white, that's always been a very sensitive issue, going all the way back to slavery. Mm-hmm. I mean, the slaves that were used in the master's home were mostly light-skinned African-American because they were more tolerable for the slave owner, and the darker skin were out in the field. So, you know, house and field, that's where we got that whole thing from. And that carried on in terms of passing and how sensitive it was in the African-American community. I used to go, so when I went on this journey, I met all my family members and all these people, and I had a second cousin, a Black second cousin who lived in Jersey City, and I would go visit her, and we'd go out to dinner, and we'd be sitting at a dinner table and talking, and she'd be telling me stories about my family and all this stuff, and it would be amazing. And then she'd look across the restaurant, and she'd point to a table full of white people, and she'd point to the guy at the table, and she'd go, he black. And I'd be like, what are you talking about, Cheryl? What do you mean he's black? He black. You don't know, but he black. And I was like, what do you got, black dar? I mean, it's like, you know, you got sense about it, you know?
Yeah. Interesting. Philip, you have a question for him?
So when you discovered your father, your biological father, being an African American, how did you feel? I don't know, about the way you'd been treating Black people in your life before then.
Yeah. So that's a great question. My mother was amazing, still is alive, amazing human being. She brought us up to judge people based on the content of their character, not the color of their skin. Not to be colorblind, because that would be denying the existence of someone in front of you, but to judge them by their character, not by the color of their skin. And so we judged individuals individually and not as a group or a color or whatever it might be. And my mother was very adamant about that. And we had a really, you know, a very inclusive upbringing when I was being raised.
Mm-hmm. I love that. I think that's a great idea. Well, I kind of want to get at the hot topic at hand this evening. You know, race is a hot issue right now. Before you joined us, while you were in the green room, we were talking about issues of race. And so you've written this book, but most people don't want to sit down and actually talk about race issues. And I actually, a couple of years ago, was in an interracial relationship. And I asked my friend, I said, listen, if you don't mind, I want to just talk to you about things that I probably would never be able to address with another white person. And I want you to do the same with me. And I felt as if that allowed our relationship to be so much stronger and better. We put everything out there on the table. You know when this was? It was when the girls in Wisconsin killed Slender Man. They said Slender Man made them do it. And I said, wait a minute. I've never heard of a Slender Man. I don't know what Slender Man is. And he said, oh, it's a white people thing. And I said, really? And that's how the conversation got started. And from that point on, we started comparing what's a white thing versus a Black thing. And when I read your book, I said, oh boy, you're trying to do the same thing, but at a higher level.
Yeah. So I want to go back for a second. So how this all came about is because for the past 15 years, I've been traveling around the country performing my story as a one-man play. So over the course of about 50 minutes, I portray over a dozen different characters from my family, including my grandmother, my father, my mother, my sister, all different kinds of friends and family members. And I tell the story as if it is happening in the moment. And I went from doing this in theaters to then moving into high schools and then into colleges, then into corporations and into government agencies. And what I discovered, and what I do is I perform the play and then I facilitate a dialogue about how we look at ourselves and how we look at other people. And the book came from my experiences over 15 years trying to get people to have these conversations and how crazy it is because people are stumbling over themselves to avoid the conversation. conversation, right? And what I did was I learned all these amazing tools that could help us have these conversations. And the first tool and the first thing that is the whole basis of this is tell your story. There's this academic theory called intergroup contact theory, which shortened or easier would be called storytelling. And by telling our stories across majority and minority populations, we can break down the prejudices that exist between us because we discover we have a lot more in common than we have different.
Yes.
This is the problem, is we allow the differences to stop us from having a conversation with someone that doesn't look like us or doesn't sound like us or didn't come from our same neighborhood or whatever it might be. And so we're allowing that one difference to stop us from discovering the multitude of commonalities that we share. And so that is the basis of the initiative of having these conversations. And that's what I try to stress in we call it, diversity and inclusion training. Educational institutions do it, corporations do it, government agencies do it.
I love it. I do. Philip, go right ahead.
So when you're doing your training in corporate America, where as an African American male, I can say that the ceiling seems to be very low. How do you think your work is received when you present there? Do they recognize? Do they seem to catch what you're trying to tell them about communication and learning from each other, or do you think it's just something they're doing because HR has determined it's best to have a training?
Well, I definitely think there are what I like to call people who just talk the talk and don't walk the talk. There's a lot of look when George Floyd was murdered, every corporation out there, every educational institution put out a statement, right?
Every one of them.
Everybody did, right? If you didn't, right? Everybody put out a statement. Putting out a statement is easy. Making the changes, taking the action to make the changes is difficult. Now, weirdly enough, I went from not being able to work because most of my work is in person, doing it in person, to suddenly my phone ringing off the hook. So everybody's calling me because I've got virtual programming now. I've got the play on video. We present the play, then I do the dialogue. I also have an e-learning training program that they can go walk their employees through. And I tell you the difference between what I'm doing. So my focus again is on creating a more inclusive workspace or a more inclusive educational space or whatever it might be. I can't help them diversify their companies. That's not my expertise. They need to work on that, absolutely. But my thing is, so let's say we got to be as diverse as we could dream. How is everybody going to get along? We all come from different cultures and different places. So I'm giving people the tools to do that. And I absolutely have seen people eating this up. They really, really have enjoyed it and have gotten a lot out of it. I get people who email me even several years later saying, I can't tell you how much I really enjoy. I'm still thinking about your play. I'm still thinking about your story. So I know it moves people deeply.
Good.
Yeah.
Now, Michael, there are 7 chapters in your book. And I really, from chapter to chapter, I learned more. There is far more that we probably could uncover from this. When did you just decide to just condense it down to this 7, or will there be a sequel to this? Because there's a lot more to talk about, and as we continue to move forward, I'm sure there's much more we could talk about.
Oh, there's plenty more to talk about. What I wanted to get forth in this book was these 7 chapters of the 7 tools. There are 7 tools that I offer people that they can use. Again, the first being tell your story. The second, don't judge the differences. The third is recognize that there isn't one way to have a conversation about race. I mean, after all, if there's one way to do it, we'd all be doing it, right? It'd make it a lot easier, right? The fourth is we can disagree so long as we're not disagreeable, which we need right now, of course.
Yes,
big time, right? Number 5, and this I hear this a lot. You guys have probably heard this quite often. Get comfortable being uncomfortable. Conversation about race and identity is very uncomfortable. We need to get comfortable with that. Number 6 is understand that there are realities outside of your own experience. Just because you haven't experienced racism or sexism or homophobia or age discrimination or disability discrimination doesn't mean that those aren't realities for other people. And number 7 is practice forgiveness. It is the most difficult work that you will ever do, but also the most rewarding. And the way I came up with all these is told through the stories that I offer in the book of all these different places that I visited, whether it was a high school or a college or a corporation or wherever it might have been. And I had this experience which illuminated this tool to me, how this could be of help. And so that's why I broke the book down into 7 chapters with the 7 tools. And definitely there's a lot more to talk about. And I don't know, maybe I'll write another one. Who knows?
I see another one coming. I do. I just take
too.
my advice. This is a great resource book, a great guide. I'm sure your e-learning is probably amazing as well too. But I do see, because of the times we're living in right now, I even noticed in my notes where, you were saying your phone is ringing off the hook right now, where people are wanting to, solicit your services. But what I find so interesting, again, people that are Black or other color minorities, the conversations are not normally had until they're forced to be had. And I find that to be just sad that they have to be forced to be had instead of wanting to accept us and dialogue with us on a regular. People love our culture, our anything that has to do with entertainment, food, fashion, whatever it is. But when it comes to talking about our personal feelings, it's a hard conversation to have.
Yeah, well, both. I mean, everybody needs to have this conversation, and I think everybody has a reluctance based on their experience. Some have. I say this often. I think it's really important for us when we're coming to the table, when we're coming to have a conversation, or when we suddenly find ourselves in a room and someone brings up the topic of race. I think it's important for us to lay out who we are, what kind of experience we have with that. Some people have never had a conversation about race before. And I think you should start off by saying that. It's not an embarrassment or shameful to say, hey, you know what? I know looks like we're going to have this conversation here, but I need to let you know, I've actually never had this conversation before. That's okay. That lets us know who's in the room and where we stand.
I love it. You get a lot of good feedback. Go ahead. Go ahead, Phil.
I think that part about being uncomfortable is what prevents just something as honest as what you said from happening. Yes. I always believe that I am who I am. So I lead off by saying that's who I am. I can't apologize for that. But I would like for you to learn about me. And I'm willing to sit here and learn about you. I think that until we can get to that point of curiosity where we will support our fellow man when we find out more about him, I think it's just so difficult for those uncomfortable conversations to take place. And that's sad because we're missing out on a lot and we're seeing it playing out in the news right now.
That's right. Well, in the book, I give lots of different prompts for people different questions and different places to start. Because, if you said like I said, tell your story, that's the way. But how do you tell your story? Do you just sit there, well, I was born in blah, blah, blah. People aren't going to do that.
Right.
So I'll tell you a story about a really great thing that I discovered. So I'm at a corporate conference for a super large multinational company, and I was giving some breakout sessions at this thing, and I was listening to the CEO, and he was speaking to a room, thousands of their employees from all over the world, and he was kind of letting them all know where everybody was, where the company was at that time, and then he was going to open it up to questions to allow the employees to ask him questions. And they had people with microphones around the room, so when someone raised their hand, the person with the microphone would go over to them and they could ask the question. And the CEO said, before you ask your question, I have 2 requirements. 1, I want you to tell me your name and the plant that you work at. And 2, I want you to tell me 2 hobbies. 2 hobbies. Now, something as simple as just telling someone 2 hobbies can open up the door to an incredible conversation.
Most definitely.
Like maybe we wouldn't have the same hobbies, but they'd be fascinating. Or maybe we would know someone who had a hobby like that. Or whatever it might be, it just opens up the door to find a commonality, find a connection.
I love it. I do. You're right. It makes great sense. Now, here's the funny piece. Most of the time when you put people on the spot like that, they can't even answer that right away. You know, they can. Most people are freeze up. My hobbies. And so, yeah, absolutely. Michael, what's coming up down the road for you? Of course, you'll continue with the e-learning, and once the country and the world opens back up, you'll get back on the road. Yes. Do you have more plays that are coming? I'm hoping for another book. You know, interracial relationships now everywhere we turn on television, every commercial has an interracial couple in there. So I now see this being a new normal for us now. So what's coming up next for you, and what should we expect down the pipe?
Well, first of all, I want to tell your listeners and watchers that they can reach me or find me at incognitotheplay.com. That's the website, incognitotheplay.com, all one word. And you can get this book, Nobody Wants to Talk About It, Race, Identity, and the Difficulties in Forging Meaningful Conversations. And you can also get the first book there, which is, again, Incognito, An American Odyssey of Race and Self-Identity. Now I'm getting all kinds of calls from different companies, government agencies. This is hard to believe. I'm doing some work with the Department of Homeland Security to try to help them understand that we have a lot more in common than we don't. I'm doing all these things virtually, and it's going great. I mean, people are really enjoying the play. I have a recording of the play that was filmed in front of a live audience, and it's really hot. The audience just loved the show, so there's lots of laughter to help provoke people who are watching it. And then again, as I mentioned, I have this e-learning platform where we have the play broken up into 6 chapters in which they can watch it in bite-sized bits, 20 minutes at a time. And so that those people who are in a corporate situation and they don't have 2 hours to sit and watch the program, they can watch 20 minutes today, they can watch 20 minutes next week, they can watch it in bite-sized pieces. So that's the main thing right now that I'm going at. And next, I'm not sure what's next. I tell you, I've been learning I still learn a lot doing this work. That's why I say I can't emphasize it enough that we have to recognize that there isn't one way to have this conversation. I mean, we all come at it from a different experience with race, with identity, and we all look at it from our own lens. And so I'm learning constantly about how to talk about this and how to talk with people and help people talk with other people. And so I'm just, still forging ahead with all this work and hoping to make a difference and using the arts as a way to create a social change.
And that's the way it's going to work. That's the only way it's going to work, because that's what captures people's attentions and it draws them in. It really does. Philip, you have anything in closing you want to say to our guests?
No, I think he's doing a great job. I think the conversations need to take place more. And I hope we get to see more of him in the future. So I can't wait till you can get back on the road again.
Oh, thank you, Philip. Thank you very much.
All right.
Appreciate it.
Michael, anytime you need a platform, we're here. We're here for you. People are saying what a great conversation. They love this tonight. I do have a question. Someone texted me and said, what happened to your dad? Whatever happened with the end of that? Is he still alive, or what happened with that relationship? If you could real quick.
So I met my grandparents were still alive when I went on this journey. I met my grandparents, and then unfortunately they passed away. Wow, it's probably been, I don't know, almost 10 years ago now. And my father had suffered from dementia and had a lot of things go on with him, and he passed away about 2 years ago, unfortunately. But the beautiful thing is I still have second cousins and aunties all around the country, and we still stay in touch, and we talk fairly regularly. So I still have my family that I get to reach out to and be a part of, and it's been great.
Beautiful. All right. So again, ladies and gentlemen, along the ticker at the bottom, it's incognitotheplay.com. If you'd like more information, you can also purchase the books there, correct?
Yes, you can get the books there as well. Yeah, autographed copy.
Oh, very good. Look, I may have to send mine back then.
Yeah.
Oh, no, wait a minute. I think mine is autographed. Right. Look, it's not. I look forward to meeting you, though. This is a great interview. People have really enjoyed it. They all said, amen. Thank you so much for sharing your story. I'm going to put some of the feedback up here real quick. And it really is a great story. And I think it's just so timely for what we're going through right now. Ladies and gentlemen, big round of applause for our good friend, Mr. Michael Fosberg, the author of the book, Nobody Wants to Talk About It, Race, Identity, and the Difficulties in Forging Meaningful Conversations. I cannot agree more. Great read. I read a couple chapters yesterday, and I'm going to finish some more, but I just thought it was great. And much success to you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you both so much.
Nice to meet you.
Talk to you. Great to talk.
All right. You
All
too.
right.
All right.
Take
Have
care.
a great
well.
night. Thanks again, Mr.
right.
Fosberg. Great job. All right. Have a good night. Yay. That was wonderful, sir. Wasn't that good?
That was a great show. That was a great show. We could have a part two. Because I didn't ask some of the questions I wanted to ask.
There's going to be a lot more to talk about.
Oh, yeah. I said, there's some questions I wanted to ask, but I figured this was the first time we'd make it easy because it's a struggle.
Yeah.
And I can imagine how you communicate to your interracial child when one race or the other seems to not be interested in developing a relationship with that child. How you keep that person strong so that they know that they are as loved and as important as any other children in that union that may be of the same race. So it's a lot. He's he gave a really good story, but I'm sure there's a lot of heartache too that went along that path.
Yes, I could agree. Absolutely. All right. Well, coming up on the Tuesday night edition of the Real Chat Daddy Show, tomorrow night is a night of giving back and a night of awareness. My very special guest co-host tomorrow night is the incredible Miss Dion Nicole Smith. As you guys know, every time she's here, we have a wonderful time. Who knows? She may sing, she may dance. She may read a recital tomorrow night. Who knows? We just love and adore her. And then also we'll welcome to the show some of my fellows from ADA 25 Advancing Leadership. We're in the midst of our recruitment stage for our 2021 fellows.
Great.
And so tomorrow night, we're going to talk about the magic that is ADA 25 Advancing Leadership, a wonderful program that has afforded me just so many great networking opportunities and ways of self-identity like you would not believe. And so I'm honored to welcome my fellows tomorrow evening. And then we'll meet the people behind IMD Guest House, and that's Illinois Medical District Guest House. As you guys know, for people who have serious illnesses, people who may have to travel, this is a beautiful, welcoming, warm place for people to stay, and they're doing a wonderful benefit, and yours truly is one of many celebrities who will be a part of this benefit. So make sure you guys in tomorrow night. Tuesday night is Give Back Tuesday, so we're doing whatever we can to give back to as many people as possible to make this world a much better place. How about that?
Yes.
Are you having a good time, Philip?
I'm having a great time. I am having a great time. Yes.
Now, I know you've just finished school and you will be Dr. Philip Montgomery, or you are Dr. Philip Montgomery.
I am Dr. Philip Montgomery, yes.
You are Dr. Philip Montgomery. And see, what I'm going to make a joke about Dr. Philip is you have a full gray beard, where our next guest has just really soft, supple skin because she's really young. And she too has a doctorate. She has a doctorate in, education. But
hey, there we go.
Now, prodigy, Philip. What happened to you?
I don't know. Something I really don't know. I don't know, because it took a lot longer than it took her. I'm going to tell you that right now.
Well, look, we just thank the Lord it happened for you. That's all we're going to say.
Yes.
All right. Well, I'd like to introduce our next guest this evening. She received her bachelor's degree at the age of 14, and she received her Ph.D. at the age of 19. She is Dr. Tess Emery, and she is now helping others to excel in education from middle school to Ph.D. students. And so I'm impressed. I mean, you know what I'm saying? Anytime she has her PhD and now she's trying to help other people, I consider her a she-ro like you would not believe. Ladies and gentlemen,
met her a few years ago.
Look, it's not too late to go back and get a couple of more degrees. Look. I'm intrigued. I can't wait to talk to her. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the show, Dr. Tess Emery. How are you, doctor?
I'm doing good. How are you doing?
Hello.
Good. What a beautiful smile. Glad to have you with us this evening.
It was nice to meet you too.
Good.
Thank you so very much. Now, listen, when I got the press release and started reading about you, I picked up the phone immediately and said, yes, I want to book her because you've done something that many people would just dream of completing. And as Dr.
Trust
Montgomery
me.
just said, he just finished it. There are people who want to finish, cannot finish. And here you received your bachelor's at the age of 14. Please tell us your child prodigy journey, and then we'll talk about the services that you offer.
Yes.
Well, first of all, I want to say thanks for inviting me on this show and congratulations to Mr. Montgomery. I
Thank you.
understand that he's going to be Dr. Philip Montgomery, so congratulations
Yes.
on that.
Thank you.
And congratulations to Mr. Art Sims for starting this Chat Daddy show. And
Thank
thanks
you.
for bringing positive stories to the press. Well, I would like to briefly go over my educational background.
Mhm.
When I was very young, my mom used to homeschool my brother and I, and then she started enrolling in college, and then she took us to class with her, and we started studying together as a group,
Oh,
and we started studying a lot of her college materials and books and textbooks, and there was a lot of books to read, and
wow.
yeah, and then as time went on, then I started to enroll in my own classes at College of Lake County, and I started to go toward getting first a bachelor degree in pre-medicine. That was my original route, and then I changed it to psychology because my family and I wanted to start a community counseling clinic to help people with their mental health.
Good.
But as I finished college, a lot of people started to contact us. After the news story went out that I finished a bachelor degree at 14, a lot of people started asking, like, how can they do good in school? How can they finish college with an accelerated route? And during that time, we started to give advice, and we wrote a book called Jump the Education Barrier. And that sold really well. A lot of people brought it. And then they still started contacting us even more. And we started giving like the guidance and strategies for people to shorten their time in school so they can be able to save on time and money.
Hmm.
Then once I finished my master's degree in organizational leadership,
Wow.
I decided to go into business full time with my mom and brother. And now we have an amazing team helping many students to, shorten their bachelor degrees in whatever
Wow.
major at any university to from 4 years instead of 4 years, they could complete it within 4 months. And then they would graduate
What?
from whatever institution they go to
Wow.
within a semester.
Wow. Wow. Wow.
Wait a minute. I'm sitting here speechless. Wait a minute. You mean to tell me what would have taken me 6 years? I could do it in 4 months?
I told you we should have met
Yes,
her a few
this is the
years ago.
program. This is the program I would have loved to sign up for when I went through school. I took the very traditional route, and the motivation came by because, each semester as I kept enrolling in classes, I kept wondering why, I wasn't getting closer to finishing my degree. And eventually I started looking at my degree plan and the time it takes to finish. And I looked at like the college catalog, and I put together a route so I can get closer to graduation in a shortened time, and then I
Wow.
could stop paying so much in tuition and spending so much time in school. I really wanted to get licensed so I could be able to work in business and
There-
help people.
I have to ask you, how did you get the school to buy into it? Because it sounds like there's some classes that you may have been able to avoid because of your experience.
Well, I would say that, well, in every institution, there are education barriers,
Hmm.
and these barriers are in the areas of admissions, tuition, enrollment, grades, and graduation. And
Hmm.
during my route, as I went through school, I went through the traditional route, and I was able to like see all these different barriers. Like at admissions, for example, the institutions often cherry pick students based off of legacy admissions, and then
Yeah.
the tuition gets inflated every year. Over 30 years ago, college used to be cost effective, and now it is very inflated due to the economy, and so many people are graduating with student loans and debt every year. And then
Hmm.
the barriers at enrollment include like their advising. People have to remember that college is a business, and so their big goal is to increase institutional revenue.
Right.
So they have people to sign up for unnecessary courses, and then when they get into those courses, the teachers are often there or are often route the students in a way where they have to like repeat those classes again in whatever topic or subject there is. Then there's barriers in the graduation area where when people are about to graduate, sometimes the school rolls out like newer requirements, and then they fail to grandfather the students into the previous academic year's requirements. And so with those barriers that are designed to make people spend more time and more money, this is how people are stretched out to 4 years of school. So when I started to work on creating this accelerated route, I started to, analyze like, the school catalog and note the points where, I can like be an advocate for my education and, speak up to, because people always learn like outside the classroom. They can demonstrate their mastery of college subjects. And with those options that schools have, people can, move through college and graduate sooner.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. I'm so impressed, Philip. I can't even say anything. Look, I feel like the dunce in this conversation.
All I keep thinking about is how come I couldn't find you about 15 years ago? You could have answered all these questions for me. I would have been dead a long time ago.
She is like our fairy godmother tonight. You know what I'm saying? She's right. She like waved a wand, like, listen, this is how you do this. Well, I want to talk about the importance of online learning. As you all know, we're in the middle of a pandemic right now. We didn't see this coming. Zoom had an outage today where most people weren't able to even get on Zoom and that type of thing. So I want to talk about utilizing this more during a pandemic, because I said a couple of weeks ago on this show that for young people who were not very much engaged in school, they're not going to be engaged at home. For those that have really smart young people at home that are, how we all say, oh, she's really bright, she's really smart, this would really be the way to go, correct?
Well, that's a good point. I do, we all recognize that different people have different learning styles and different methods that work for them. Now, online learning is more important than ever now because, people need to be flexible and they need to stay safe. And our program, Jump the Education Barrier, helps to emphasize that. And we help to encourage the students to like enjoy learning. So because we focus on those main important tenets, then students can be autonomous in their education and they can be able to still handle their day-to-day activities because they have a family to support and they have errands and tasks to run, and then they also have to meet their academic goal so they can get started in their career industry and help others. So online learning is helpful because people can take that with them, take school with them, and be able to meet their academic requirements wherever they are. Online learning is also very secure because people can still be able to prove their identity and prove that they're who they say they are when they complete online classes. They'll be able to hold up their IDs to whoever requires it. They can type a certain way with certain keystrokes, and that will prove that that's that person. So online learning is a lot more secure than in-person learning.
Really? I wondered about that. I wondered, like, how do we know grandmother is not taking this for the kid? How do we know, the really smart uncle or, okay, all right, because I wondered how that actually all worked. Philip, you have a question?
I think she's right. I think these are some challenging times, and we really have to be flexible. I think the security is an issue because I do think, as an adjunct professor myself, I know that you always want to make sure that the students are telling you the truth, but we know how they can be, and once you can find a way to make sure, that there's some security in with who you're teaching and how they respond and who's taking the tests, I think it makes the online environment more credible. But I also think we've got to reach as many of our young people as we can. So while educating the students, we're going to have to educate the parents too.
Tess, I do have a question for you. As far as like, if a person was to join your curriculum and your program, is it a year round, or do you start it when school starts and end at a certain time? How does it all work, especially for middle school students? That's what a couple of people have texted me about.
Right. The amazing feature about our program is that it starts whenever people want to start going toward their academic goals. And so it's not constricted by start dates, and it's not limited by, like, cherry picking or who it is that signs up. Anyone can sign up for it, and they can complete their education any time of the day or night. And we have an amazing team and support system to help keep the students, learning, and to help make sure that they know how to take charge of their education journey.
Wow.
Our homeschool program is only 2 months, and then our bachelor degree program is 4 months. When the students transfer into the institution they want to graduate from, then they have to spend a semester there, but they will have our tools and strategies so they don't get caught in like a pipeline that will keep them stuck for a long time.
Wow. Okay.
I am so impressed. I really am. I really am. I mean, I'm just even impressed that you were reading your mom's books while she was in school. So I take it you've always loved to read. You've always loved to explore. Is there any particular thing that you like to read more than anything?
Yes, I like to read the Bible, and because the Bible has, all the wisdom that we all need to, do good in life and help others, and it encourages us to, love God with all our heart, mind, soul, and strength, and to love our neighbors as ourselves.
All right. Yes.
Oh my God! I feel like such a slacker. I really do. This is incredible. So for those that want to connect with you, those that want to find out more information, we have your website running along the bottom of the ticker. I even followed you on social media. I'm telling you, you are getting ready to be a huge phenomenon, because most child prodigies that I've met, they are just so super smart, but when it comes to communicating with the world and people, they tend to not want to do that. And so that's why I'm so impressed that you are presenting yourself, you're doing this, and I'm really proud of you. I'm very much, I feel almost as if we're related. That's how proud I am of you. I really am.
Wow.
Well, I would just say, thanks so much for bringing positive stories to the press and like inspiring people. And I also thank God for giving us the wisdom and equipping us to be able to help like the future generations as they go through the education system, so they can be able to make a positive impact on society as well.
Definitely.
Very good. Give everybody your website real quick.
Yes, you can visit my website at www.tessaembry.com, and I'm going to spell that out. That is TESSAEMBRY.com. And you can follow me on Facebook or Twitter at Tessa Embry, or on Instagram at Dr. Tessa Embry, but it is Dr. Tessa Embry.
Okay.
Wow, we appreciate you so much. Wait, let me edit this real quick. They had put the wrong. It's with an A, not an E. Okay, hold on. Put it back up here for you. Very good. Well, Doctor, I look forward to having you back again in the near future. Let me put this back so people can see it again. And we really appreciate you being here with us tonight. Thank your family, and we look forward to meeting you again in the near future.
Oh, thank you. And we look forward to helping many people jump the education barrier.
All right. We look forward to
Congratulations.
talking to you and having you back. You did an outstanding job tonight. Everybody just loves you. Oh, you got a lot of great feedback tonight. Yes, you are. Very beautiful and smart. Yes. All right. Well, thank you so much, and have a beautiful night. All right.
Oh, you too. And God bless you all.
You too.
Thank
Good night.
you, Dr. Tessa Embry, you guys.
Yes.
Oh, it was great. She did a wonderful job. We are very proud of her. Philip, we've had a good show tonight.
We really have. But my God, at 19, can you just imagine being through with all that by 19? I don't know what I would be doing right now.
I'd be retired in South Africa somewhere right now. Do you understand me?
I might not be retired, but I would have made a lot of things different, I bet. Wow.
Oh, absolutely. Could you imagine? I mean, her whole future is ahead of her, and just how outstanding and personable she is, and just it's incredible. And then, her mom and brother in the business with her. And I just think it's really good. And she's a shining example of an African-American woman doing the doggone thing. And I just think it's great,
And even, when you hear her story, even if you don't believe that that's the story for you, it's so good to hear that somebody is trying something positive even if it's not for you, it's a positive story. She
Right.
has done a lot, and I'm sure she could run circles around us. And it's great to see a young lady like that doing so much in the community.
Absolutely. So if you guys are interested, her website is along the bottom, guaranteeing you that, within 4 months, you'll be able to go on and get that bachelor's degree. Look, brother, I'm gonna have to get all my ducats in a row. Look, I'm sure it's not cheap now, but it's well worth it because you're saving so much money,
All I could do was sit here and add up the money, because every time she kept talking about the 2 years, and at first she said 4 months. I'm like, nah, she didn't say 4 months. And she said it again, and I'm subtracting how much money I spent on college. But hey, I'm glad to see she's out there doing it now. She can make a difference for a lot of families.
Yes. All right. So if you guys are interested, her website is along the bottom on the ticker. Please support, show her some love. Great, just wonderful. She's the president of Lear Day and 120 EDU. Yes, okay. Which is amazing. Yes, absolutely. Yes. Dr. Tessa, that's who she is. We are very proud of her. It is just wonderful to hear that. Well, Philip, we got a few more minutes. Do we want to go back into hot topics again?
I really want to revisit our friend with Sweetie Pie.
I know you do. I know you do. I wanted to revisit that too.
I'm just so disgusted by the whole thing. All I can think of is Tina Turner, this woman being a backup dancer, surviving all that, cooking all this good food, creating a business, getting a TV show, having this son, and then he kills your grandson.
Your grandson.
Like you said, and there's a plan to kill you. It's like, what? And there's a lot that's happened with him, unfortunately, and not to laugh because it's not funny, but it's more like he was lost somewhere along there, and a lot of people probably missed it. And unfortunately, this is how it has played out. It's a sad story because, like you said, the debt that he was in probably had him to the point where he couldn't figure out a way to cope. And that's a sad thing to say, that he allowed it to get to this point where he took a life for $400,000 and something.
Mm-hmm. Yes, you're absolutely right about that. You know what let me make sure I got this up here right. Yeah, I do. Tessa, TESSAEMBRY. Yes, I do. Okay, I had to make sure. Yeah. No, it's a sad and unfortunate situation. A lot of people have been making the comment about the fact that he looks like he's always smiling. And the thing that I kind of got from that is that some people who have issues like that don't realize that their facial expression never changes, because people was like, well, if he's been arrested for this, and if this is his mug shot, or if this is, his look all the time, I'm not understanding or getting that. But I know somebody that had a look like that all the time, and it looked as if, did I lose you?
No, I'm still here. Give me 1 second. Don't do anything. I can hear you.
Okay. So I don't know, because a lot of people want to question how he's been looking, in a lot of these media photos. And again, like I told you, when I met him that day, I kind of thought something was not quite right with him.
Well, we're not his doctor, but you could say that there probably are some issues, some behavioral health issues that need to be managed, that he may not be aware of, or he might be aware of them. I think that the sad part is, and this goes back to what a lot of African-American males deal with, they don't talk to the space is not always available to talk about what's really going on. Mm-hmm. And there may have been some things going on with him where, if he had been in a place where he was comfortable to reach out and he could have the conversation, maybe people would have realized earlier, hey, you might benefit from some help from a therapist, or you might benefit from some medication to help you so you're not quite seeing things that way. Or just talk to somebody and see if they can understand you or help you understand yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So I think a lot of what he had been dealing with probably had been going on for most of his life. Like you said, the smiling constantly is a dead giveaway. And then there were a couple of incidents on the show where the anger seemed to go to a level that was a bit extreme, considering that most of them were family members to begin with. Although I do know your family is the one that can definitely make you the angriest.
Buttons, baby, can push the buttons. Yes.
Right. I think that when you're looking at him and what he had been through, you just never know the story that he had been selling the world, his friends, and what it took for him to keep all that going. And that might have been, what made him feel important. And then on some level, he saw it all disappearing, and that desperation came in. Because again, the mother had been talking about stopping the show for some time. So that was going to come to an end anyway.
Right.
And then him dealing with the fact that you're right. You can open up a couple of restaurants and they might do amazing business, but that type of food may not translate the same in other areas. So he may have been out there for cars, apartments, houses, girlfriends.
He had a place in L.A., he had a place in St. Louis. If I'm not mistaken, I think they said he either had a place in Memphis, whatever it was, wherever he was trying to open business. He was living the high end. He was living the good life. He was a star now. And again, depending on what his past was like, and if he did actually serve that prison time, trying to make up for lost time. But I don't know. It's a weird and sad situation all the way around, and everybody just loves Miss Robbie. And to know that, again, this is your son that has killed your grandson. And then now there's rumors out that there was also getting ready to be a hit on her. And then here's the even crazier piece, that you could get other people to join you in on this fiasco for the love of money.
What how's that song go? For the love of money. It's a sad thing because, again, what happened, that made this the only route? And I hate that others weren't able to get close enough to him to offer him some solutions other than those, because that was a darker side that made that choice.
Right.
And he probably just was not in a good space mentally. And I think if some other people had been around him to talk to him and maybe help walk him through it, it might have been as painful, but it wouldn't have resulted in what happened in this case.
Well, real quick before we run out of time, R&B singer Jaheim is supporting number 45, Donald Trump. Jaheim is saying that he's done a lot of great stuff for people. And so, it had been some rumors that Jaheim may not be feeling well. And these rumors have been going around for some time now. Philip, what do you think about that whole situation with R&B singer Jaheim?
I think that's the country that we live in, and that's the great thing about it. Even when we agree to disagree, it's okay, and we want to keep it that way. So hopefully Jaheim's candidate doesn't win again. But I think for him, you never know. Here we go again. You never know where he was let down or what part of the system failed for him, so that he can't even consider the fact that some of the obvious things that have been going on are wrong. He's willing to support a system, any system. And I think that as African-American males, as males in general, the system does tend to let us down. And I think that we become so disenchanted with everything that's going on that we can lean to the side that's not the healthiest. And whatever Mr. Jaheim is thinking, I'm sure he is not in a space where he can process it completely. I can understand that there are things that you'd like to see done differently other than the way the Democratic Party has been doing it. But I just can't understand endorsing someone who has explained away, basically in his mind, 170-something thousand people, unfortunately, passing from a virus that probably could have been slowed down if it just slowed down some of the airplane traffic and some of us going out of our homes for a little longer period of time.
Which is very true. I couldn't agree with you more. Well, my friend, we've come to the end of yet another amazing show.
Wow.
I know. Can you believe it? We sit down and get to talking and going. It's almost time for the show to be over. I want to remind everyone before we say goodnight, please go over to YouTube and subscribe to The Real Chat Daddy Show on YouTube. It's easy. It's simple. It's free. It doesn't cost you anything. I'm not going to bug you. The more people who subscribe to the show on YouTube, the easier it'll make to make this show grow and do some other things. I really do appreciate you guys. We're also on Periscope now. You can see this on the Chat Daddy Twitter page as well too. Do me a favor, after tonight's show is over, please start a share party where you can just share tonight's show. You can always watch encore performances of the show on the Real Chat Daddy Show page on Facebook, as well as over on YouTube. I appreciate you guys. Oh, and guess what? The show is now on my website, therealchatdaddy.com. Yeah, I know. I've been busy all day long. That's why I'm going to bed after this, because I had a tutorial all day long on how to grow my brand and my business and all of that.
Right.
Yeah, I have some great people who are helping me now, and I just think it's the most amazing thing ever. I really do.
You're the new 19.
Yes. Hey, this past Thursday evening, we had a reunion of some of the original people from the radio show over at WVON. So Robin Lewis, my radio wife, was a part of it. Joseph Luckett, my original technical engineer and director. Miss Helena Smith, who started off with me in the beginning of the show. And then we had two of our amazing interns. We had Kiara Donald, who is now a senior at Kentucky State University. And then we had Mr. Tyler Beck, who is now married and a kindergarten teacher. He and his wife both. Yes, I know.
Wow.
So yes, I'm very proud of them, and just thought that they were just amazing young people. And so it was a great show. It was a great show. Yes. Oh, love your Twitter site. Thank you so much. I appreciate you guys. Philip, is it anything you want this amazing audience to know?
I've had more fun. Until the next time. I enjoy it every time.
We won't have a hard time getting you back, will we?
No, not at all.
Okay. All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of my co-host this evening, Dr. Philip Montgomery, and yours truly, Chat Daddy, we thank you guys so very much for being here with us tonight. Don't forget, tomorrow night is Give Back Tuesday. Give Back Tuesday. Two amazing segments tomorrow night on how you can do something different with your life and give back, as well as we'll talk about some other things as well too. And Miss Dion Nicole Smith is our very she's a hoot. I love her. I really do.
I know.
I love her. She might break out in the song tomorrow night.
I've got to do that next time. I'll sing next time. We'll do something.
Will you sing?
I'll sing something. We'll do it my way.
Oh, go ahead. Keep going. Sing a song out tonight. Sing a song out tonight. Okay. A couple people wanted to know about the new addition to the studio. We now have foliage. We now have lush green foliage in the studio. Auntie Carolyn Douglas said I needed a plant behind me, and she said, a big tree. And so
I like it. I like it.
A big tree. Yeah. I know, right? Except a bird flew out of it earlier today.
Well, these things will happen.
Is that what happens?
Yeah.
All right, ladies and gentlemen. Good night. We love you guys so very much. Y'all see me on Twitter? Oh, really? Hold on. Yay. Oh, wonderful. So I am on Twitter. Yay. Okay.
Hey.
Guys, follow Chat Daddy, support, do all those things. All right. Have a great night. Thank you, Philip.
Well, thank you. Anytime.
Right. I forgot we have to go off a certain way now. Hold on. I forgot about this.
Good night.
There we go. And we out here. Good night. See you later.